Well, everyone, thank you for joining us. Yeah, we got a good deal to cover today, and I do apologize. We were preparing. This is the 9 p.m. show. We were preparing it. We were loading all the videos and everything we planned to discuss into the interface, and we are going early, so we are not as prepared as we normally like to be. We're going to cover what we were planning on covering, including news inside the U.S. and other things that we really have been neglecting, and there's stuff that we need to cover. But the reason we're going live is because there is, in fact, a firefight outside of the Zaporizhzhia power plant. It's a nuclear power plant, I believe. If I recall, it's the largest power plant in the UK. Sorry, not in the UK, in Europe. It's there is a firefight. It appears like Ukrainian and Russian forces are firing at each other there. We do believe at this point rocket-propelled grenades have been used. There is at least one confirmed fire, and we believe credibly a second. The fire appears to be, one of the fires appears to be in some kind of administrative building. We don't know exactly what it's used for, but just to give everybody, just before anybody panic sets in, because this is absolutely breaking news and we have to cover this, but I want to be crystal clear on a few things. To the best of our understanding, at this point, and we're not looking at any real possibility of a meltdown or anything like that. The reactor is under control and it can be scrammed. And to the best of my knowledge, there is not any genuine concern of a nuclear meltdown, the kind of which that we have seen before. So let me say again, that right now, as I understand it, there is no concern of like a nuclear meltdown. However, they store the radioactive waste on site. They don't go out and bury it in the mountain. As anybody who knows Yucca Mountain, we've had this issue in the U.S. What do we do with our nuclear waste? They are storing it on site. If one of these buildings is hit, if one of these buildings catches on fire, it could pose depending on, we don't know how much they're storing, we don't know the nature of it. We just know that there is nuclear waste stored on site. It has happened before where nuclear waste has caught on fire, and the fire throws this ash into the air, and it's obviously a serious problem. It is not as serious as a meltdown. That is not what we are talking about. It is nonetheless, unfortunately, extraordinarily serious. So, having said that, we're going to start while we are sorting all of this. We're gonna try to dovetail into the show that we were doing. We're gonna try to collate this information as we learn more. There is a live stream. I do have it, but like we just basically scrambled to go live as quickly as possible. We have some other unfortunate news. It's things are just looking very bad out there. This was going to be kind of a difficult show either way, but we are now going early to bring you that. I don't have any of the systems I would normally have up, including the chat. We do now have the room open, so any of our normal guests. Oh, I forgot. I did want to contact. I knew I was forgetting something. I will probably pause for a minute and contact Commander McMillan. We'd really like to get his insight in on this. So, excuse me. But it was just sort of a rush to bring you this as much as possible for two reasons. One, obviously, this is extremely important and worth knowing, but also two, in keeping with sort of our tradition of trying to make sure that people are well informed, we wanted to make sure that we cleared up. There's been some freaking out about, okay, we're looking at a meltdown, Chernobyl style. We are not looking at that. However, at this point, we're reasonably confident this is still an extremely serious situation with very dramatic consequences if the wrong building gets hit and if a significant fire starts there. This is not this is a huge deal. It is not a nuclear meltdown kind of deal. Well, let me rephrase that. It is that kind of deal. It's just not on that scale. So this is, if, to the best of our understanding, and we're going to try to get clarity as we move forward, but to the best of our understanding, the best of my personal understanding as to how these things work, what we are looking at is a kind of catastrophe of the quality of a nuclear meltdown, which would be the release of nuclear material, poisonous material into the environment, and probably a significant one, but not of the of the same quality, but on a quantitative scale, not as bad. So it's not, Chernobyl was, of course, very bad. 3 Mile Island had a release of nuclear material, but obviously didn't, wasn't catastrophic for the United States. I don't think we're looking at anything catastrophic in that way, but we're looking at a very serious problem if a fire hits any of those containment areas. So, you've got two militaries squaring off literally on top of radioactive waste. Now, we do know that the fire department's been trying to get in there. They had a fire truck that was trying to get in, but we're having difficulties. I don't know if those difficulties were that they were coming under fire. I don't know. We do know that there are workers there. One can only imagine what's going on in their heads right now. That is probably one of the most dangerous areas to be on the planet right now. I wouldn't want to be there even if I was in some kind of shelter from all the combat. So, the Chernobyl meltdown was the result of a number of things. But regardless, I mean, the reality is that you should be able to receive extraordinarily significant damage to the as my understanding is, at least to the outer concrete, whatever it is, the stacks on the reactor, and still not initiate a nuclear meltdown, assuming that they've, I don't know the construction of this, but assuming that they've instituted some kind of scram, hopefully you could receive pretty catastrophic physical damage to a reactor and not have it melt down, but I don't know for certain. So hopefully we will get more on that, but we are not looking at that right now. What we're looking at is the stored waste. That's the point. The problem is what happens. I mean, this, I have to believe that there is some danger in a nuclear power plant getting attacked, regardless of how well it's built. Don't think I'm going out on a limb by saying that. So regardless of design flaws, this could be the best built reactor in the world. It's now in the middle of a firefight. So, and we reported on this yesterday. Civilians were actually building their own human shield to try to keep them out. I don't know what happened. They honestly, with any luck, the people dispersed because they aren't going to. They're in there, so my hope is it's because they dispersed, not because they were killed. But we'll see. Ian Davenport, $5, 5 Australian dollars, I believe that is. Thank you very much for your support, Ian. We really appreciate it. I'm not going to, go probably too much into the thank yous tonight. This is big, and at this point, I think we're going to stay on. Is the stream choppy? Yeah, one of the things is normally we were uploading graphics. We have the production computer is sequestered from all the other computers, and if I'm doing research on my main computer, it has to get uploaded to the. They're not actually. They're connected through a shared drive, so it gets uploaded to the drive and downloaded. Yes, it's not the most efficient way to do it, but there are the reasons we do it that way. At any rate, that's causing lag because we were in the middle of preparing for a show. And the files for tonight's show are still being uploaded. So I'm streaming at the same time as trying to upload those files. The only way right now to safely assure the quality of the stream is to shut down that computer, but I need that computer for research. So that's the computer that's right here. And it's showing me live data on what's going on, but it's also trying to it's a long, we'll try to give us a few minutes, and we're going to try to get everything sorted and improve the quality of the stream and make sure Sinister Porpoise, not that I'm an expert, but I think you need to do something to set the reaction off. You see, that's the question, is to the best of my understanding, which is very surface level. In general, the general design of these is that once the reaction started, it started for life. It's basically started forever in at least the older reactors. I think some of the new ones you actually can permanently shut down the core. But how low it gets depends on how much of the control rods get exposed to the core. If the control rods are fully in, the area is basically as safe as just walking out down the street. It all but shuts down the core so long as the control rods are there. This is why fusion is such a dangerous thing. Fission is such a dangerous thing, and fusion is so highly sought after. Fusion, if you cut the power to fusion, the fusion reaction stops. The fusion reaction must be powered to be maintained. A fission reaction is self-powering. You can't shut it down that way. You may be able to shut it down, and again, I haven't researched this in a very long time. You may be able to shut it down if you slow it down enough that it can no longer self-sustain. I sort of vaguely recall designs for reactors that could in principle do that. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if this is one of those reactors. If it is, hopefully it's been shut down. In that case, ostensibly, unless you power it with a huge blast of, I think it's, I want to say neutrinos. I don't remember what the hell it is. It can't be neutrinos. that's my brain's going to be a little iffy tonight. But you have to hit it with a huge blast of some kind of, I don't know if it's electrons, I don't know what the hell it is, but you hit it with a huge blast of energy and then you can start it back up again. But conventional weapons will not do it. So if it's completely shut down in that sense, and I don't know if, I don't have the specs on this thing, but if it's shut down on that sense, then actually this thing is perfectly safe. It's the waste that's the problem. I don't know if it can be shut down in that sense, but everything I'm hearing says that right now the principal concern is not the reactor. And the reactor is principally, I would imagine, insulated against some attack of some kind. If for no other reason than you get earthquakes, you get, an airplane could crash into the building. These things are designed to withstand some significant damage. So, yeah, well, there's been fighting at Chernobyl. There's already been a release of nuclear material from Chernobyl. Now that reactor is shut down in as much as it can be. You've got the sarcophagus; it's covered, but the problem is there's still a lot of radioactive material there. You don't want to start a fire there. The worst thing you can do, the absolute worst thing you can do to nuclear material is light it on fire, because then it goes straight into the atmosphere. So there are fires around this building. This is a really bad, detonating like TNT around one and just blowing it up is kind of a bad thing, right? That's how you make a dirty bomb. But the worst thing you can do is light it on fire. So, yeah, we're gonna need to catch up on that. I'm gonna start to try to do a rundown in a minute. And then one of my top priorities is going to be to get you guys into the main screen down there. In fact, I may just quickly do what we know there. To the overload interface, because this is what the overload interface was designed for. So I'm going to switch to the overload as soon as we can do that, so you guys can keep an eye on the stream and we can use the map. Yeah, let's switch to that now because the map isn't on it right now, so you can't see it. Okay, we'll switch to the overload interface and we'll be able to show you a lot of things at the same time. Right now for this map, the worst place to be other than that nuclear power plant is here. What is it? Malacom? I haven't learned to pronounce Mariupol. This city, as you can see, they need the main road that goes through that city to bridge these two. We've talked about how vital that bridge is. It is critical to Putin's plans going forward. We were talking with Macmillan last night, and he explained to us why that is. We know that they knew that going ahead of time, and they've just failed to take it. But right now, they appear to be doing two separate strategies at the same time to capture the city. First is cutting off everything. There's they're running low on water, running low on food, and they're going to try to starve everybody out. The other thing that they're doing is shelling it actively. It's seeing a significant amount of shelling. We have some footage. We will be bringing that, but this is right now actually the crux of the war. The war is no longer over Kiev. It will be again, but right now that's where the war is. This one city, Mariupol, right here. As long as it holds out, you won't see a bridge of that red area. It will not hold out. It will not hold out. It will fall. When is the only question, but they are, son of a, yes, that's correct, Titan. Thank you. We're using the backup interface and it automatically turns this one on. It's not supposed to do that. The modern interface doesn't do that, but the old one does. So every time I turned this off right before the show, I turned it off. I said, we'll be good. No, because this one is the old one that turned it on automatically, and now it's designed to be muted from here. Thank you, Titan. All right, apologies for the echo. So, obviously, as you can see here, heavy shelling. We're going to get into that. The column still has not moved. Pray to God that doesn't move. I think, hopefully, right now we're looking at. Hopefully, right now we are looking at that column never moving again. I think that's I have no idea how to ballpark that. I'm just going to say 50-50, but there's no way to know. They don't want to move. It looks like they've been sabotaging their own fuel tanks. If they don't fight, they're going to get shot. So they have to try to go forward. But hey, we were out of fuel. I don't know who stabbed a fuel tank with a, combat knife, but, oops. So, yeah, and as you can see, that area of red that they're controlling is growing. There's just a couple of key areas. They want Kiev. Kiev is the primary goal, and we talked about why last night. But right now, it's, I think, all going to hinge on Mariupol and that reactor, which I'd like to get live footage of that. I also haven't had a chance to get into the live chat, and like I said, we had other things we were going to cover today. So now that we've sort of hit the basics, so at least everybody knows that we are looking, hopefully we've covered this accurately and you're aware of what we are looking at. It is an extremely serious situation. It is not... to the best of our understanding, there could be a nuclear meltdown at any time situation. It simply is not that, to the best of our knowledge, to ascertain. And incredibly, it's not that based on my understanding, what we're looking at so far. What it possibly is a significant release of nuclear material if any of the warehouses housing this stuff are hit and catch on fire. The problem is we don't know how much material is there. This, believe it or not, is not part of the public record. So we don't know. We don't know the nature of it. We don't know what's stored there. We just know that nuclear waste from this facility is kept on site. It's in one of the buildings. If one of those buildings gets hit, we're going to know reasonably quickly because people are monitoring radioactive levels in the area. So we're going to see at this point what that means is it's airborne, and where the winds take it is going to be extremely important. As of yet, that has not happened. So that's it. That's you guys are now as caught up to date as I think we can get you on this. So yeah. All right. So what we're going to do is I would like to check the live chat. I'm going to probably be like 10 minutes behind the live chat. I'll try to hit a few at a time. That's where we stand. If anybody has any questions on details, go back. I tried to cover it as quickly as possible and as accurately as possible in 5 minutes, so you can just go right back to the beginning of the tape and see where we are on that, because it's important to be accurate. There are people who are freaking out. It is kind of a low-level freak-out situation. I'm not going to sit here and say don't freak out, but we're not looking at, to the best of our ability to understand now, and I'm really rather confident of this, we're not looking at a nuclear meltdown. But what we're looking at is of the same quality of event. It's just that the severity isn't going to be as bad, but it could still be severe. We don't know. It depends on all these factors we don't have. But the reactor is presumably about as safe as it can be in this set of circumstances. It's the nuclear waste we're worried about. So now that we've covered that, what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about what else we know in this area. We're going to talk about what's going on in the U.S. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cover the U.S. first, and I'm going to have to do some of this from memory because I was finishing our rundown for the show before this started. So, oh, dear Lord, now I'm trying to remember that. And did any of that make that into this rundown? Or am I just going to wing this? I'm going to wing this. Good. All right. I do have a secondary copy. I'll be able to get to some of those notes. But in the U.S., let's see, from memory here. Oh, dear Lord. A couple of big news. I think, there was a portion of Roe v. Wade that has now been... Yes, the lower court blocked, I think it was the Texas Roe v. Wade decision, the Texas Roe v. Wade. They blocked that law from going forward. I believe the Supreme Court today, and this is from memory, and there's a lot going on, but I believe that the Supreme Court today overturned that, and that can now continue. That's obviously a blow to the Roe v. Wade. There's a million steps between here and Roe v. Wade falling, but that's not insignificant. The other thing, if I recall, let's see, there was a thing on, oh, dear Lord, I'm going to stop trying to do this from memory because I don't have the ability to keep all of those in my head at a time. We do have a Discord. If you go to that Discord, you'll see we're covering Ukraine pretty significantly. We're also covering what else is going on. There are other very significant things. Oh, yeah, one of my favorites, I think it was... the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who was speaking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and said that she agrees with Mitch McConnell that she should just shut up. Spent most of my life writing. I'm actually really fucking good at it. I don't usually, people sit there, Twain once said, "Excuse me for the length of this letter. I didn't have time to write a good one." When I'm trying to write, really trying to write, it takes a while because doing anything well takes time. But I'm fucking good at it. All that notwithstanding, I can't think of a better way to explain Marjorie Taylor Greene than to say shut up, except with the possible inclusion of the F word somewhere in that sentence. Yeah, I think Pelosi's got that right. I don't have the skill to move on that sentence. Oh, dear Lord. All right. Okay, so we also do have, and this was really friggin' clever. Now, my hope is that now the files are still uploading, so the files for the show upload to the cloud and then get downloaded by the production computer, which is what I'm working on now. And I try to do research on the production computer for that reason, but the production computer doesn't have any of the stuff that I use. It doesn't have my email, doesn't have anything. It's a work computer. It just does the show. So it's like if I want to take a break to game or if I want to check my email or anything like that, I can't do it on the production computer. So I don't always do research on it, and when I don't, then we have this issue. So I do apologize. My suspicion is the stream quality is going to get back up reasonably soon. But my hope is that a number of the files that I did need are uploaded, and they should be. So I'm going to check on the status of that right now. But one of the important things, yep, that was one of the important ones. We have footage of a fire. The fire is happening right behind a church. And it was reported that fire was happening at the, and this was reported on Twitter. I don't know how many people ran with it. This was, Twitter reported, but it was reported that fire was happening at a church. That is inaccurate. It was happening at the site. That was inaccurate. Somebody really put this one together well, which was they calculated the airspeed, which changes based on temperature. The colder it is, the colder it is, I believe the slower air travels. And based on the local temperature, based on where the camera footage was taken, and how long between when you see the blast and when you actually hear it in the camera, they calculated roughly where the blast was, and it was in this area here, which is not actually near any of the reactors. So the initial blast that was reported as a direct hit and attack on the base. We don't believe the base is being shelled. We don't believe the reactor is being shelled. We don't believe the area is being shelled, but there are RPGs being used in the area that we're confident of. But there was a report that it got hit with an attack, and somebody, I can't vouch for this, but I saw the math and I saw how they did it. It makes sense to me, which is they calculated using the speed of sound and what the difference between what they see in the camera and when they hear it, and figured out roughly where that blast must have been based on where the camera was aimed, and that's it. So it doesn't look like the reactor was the source of that fire. Having said that, there is at least one. We are at this point calling it as confirmed. In fact, I've seen it. So there's one fire there, and we're being told there's actually two. So I'm reasonably confident that second one is accurate. So at this point, I think we're going to say one is confirmed and reasonably likely that there's at least a second one. So, and for those of you, again, if you're just joining us and you're asking how bad that is, it's not as bad as it sounds. It's still pretty bad. And we've covered that in the first minute of the show. So you can go back and see just precisely what it is we're talking about. It's not good, but it's not, we're not, I think at this point, nobody's talking about an actual, nuclear meltdown or anything like that. So, but it's still, this is actually really extraordinarily serious. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Like I said, I'd like to try to get the live stream in, but this interface, we were in the middle of prepping for a regular show. We went live for a little early. So, we don't actually necessarily have everything we need for this. I'm going to see, I think I may have the live stream here. If I do, it'll take a sec to plug into the show. In fact, what I'll do is, rather than plug it into the show, so you can see the map, you don't need to see the map and that, and I'd rather you guys be able to see that. So, okay, that should be the live feed. Yeah, that's the live feed. All right. Well, something's working. That's always nice. All right. I'm going to see if we can get that live feed up. And, all right, you guys should see that now reasonably well. Yes, you do. What I'd like to try to do is, yeah, let's. No, that didn't work. All right, I think I got this. Almost got this. We'll see. There we go. Wrong button. All right. That right there is the power plant. There was a fire on the building to the right. That fire does appear to be out. I can also hear the stream, and it sounds like it's raining, which, oh, thank God, if that's true. There was a fire on the right-hand side and purportedly one on the left. It looks like at least one of them is out. There was footage of, there was a fire truck trying to get in there. Okay, that... all right. So we'll keep an eye on it. That's where that is. But now that that's up, I feel a little better about going forward. All right. And hold on one second. Right. So. All right. So. Standby one. All right. What I'm hearing. Oh, that's why. All right. It does. Okay, so apparently there are still fires burning there, even though the main one is out. There are still fires burning. There is a report that has been unconfirmed that there has been an increase in radiation levels at the outside, and this reactor apparently, to the best of my understanding now, cannot be shut off. So there is a danger if the reactor itself is hit. They can't shut it off if the core ends up being exposed and or any of the fuel rods damaged. There could be a problem, a very serious problem, but credibly, I think the people are thinking that the chances of that are low. The biggest concern right now is the nuclear fuel, the spent nuclear fuel. Now, the Russians know that this is here. I mean, I can find it on Google Maps. I know that they've been kind of cut off from the rest of the industrialized world. You know, Google, if you could turn on that section of the Google Maps, I know it sounds counterintuitive. You know, you don't want to put on the nuclear site on the map, but in this case, may not be a bad idea. Dear Lord. All right. So I'm going to get back to the live chat, and then I'm going to try a rundown, and then we'll see where everything else stands. I got one or two too many. Okay, so Sister Porpoise, in time, if you don't get my calc assignment by 11 tomorrow, can I get a note saying I was learning about Vladimir Putin's Russists? Yes, you may. We do. This is a service we provide. You know, it's kind of like a doctor's note. This is a citizen journalist's note. I despise that phrase, but you know, yes, you were being educated on world events and why we don't want nuclear waste spilled into the environment. So let's see. Yeah, if somebody can let me know. It looks like we still are behind. It looks like there's still a lag issue. I may just shut down the other machine because this was not. All right, so Sinister Porpoise, while the reactor, which is not running, cannot have a meltdown anymore. My understanding is if this was one of the ones that could be shut down completely, that would be true. But what I'm hearing now is, and yeah, so they had shut down two of the reactors and they were running. I had thought, what we had heard was that all of these sites had been evacuated and they were all being handled remotely. At present, it looks like that may not be the case because we have reports that there are workers there. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too much off the live chat on this, so if somebody has a source that I can cite as to whether or not there is an actual chance of meltdown on this, I think at this point there is a chance, but it's rather low. The core is insulated against this kind of thing. Again, they have to, in the U.S., the requirements are that an airplane has to be able to hit the stack and still have the core be safe. Because and it wasn't actually for terrorism. That was that was done in the 70s, I think, and shortly after 3 Mile Island, somewhere in that vicinity, they decided to insulate these things against an airplane because somebody could accidentally hit the thing. Anyways. Now, the column is fine. Major General Andrea, killed by Ukrainians. I heard about this. Okay, thank you, Titan. All right, so I'm going to take a look and see what we've got on this. In the meantime, what else is going on? We spoke about Mariupol. The problem is the Russians need that, and their invasion... Obviously, the city that they want the most at this point is Kiev. That's what they want. But succeeding in any of this is extremely difficult if they can't get supplies up, and they can't get supplies until they get Mariupol. So Mariupol is their current, I guess, is tactical target, I guess is the right, because it's not strategic. But that's their current target, and they have it completely surrounded. They are, it appears, both trying to starve them out and okay. They are both trying to starve them out and trying to shell them out. So just see what works first. All right, it looks like we may have lost the camera there. Is that? No, camera's not been lost. I don't think it's been lost. Yeah, camera's been lost. Hold on a second. Okay, so... Yep, the feed's been cut. Now, we were anticipating the feed getting cut because the Russians don't want that feed up. And they know the camera's there, so it's a question of them like actually locating it and taking it down. It looks like that's been done. So that area is on the map. It should be, it's right about here, I think. Which one? That one may be it. So the feed is down. I would urge everybody not to be too concerned about that. We knew it was going to go down. Obviously, it's a little nerve-wracking that the feed is down, but we knew it was going to happen. So, yeah, I don't need that. I don't need that. So okay. And that one is, nope, that's another city. I don't think that's it. Nope, that's Kherson. So I thought that was right over here. I don't know. I'll get to it in a second. So where are we? Let's do a basic rundown, and we'll talk about what we know about the plant, which is a lot less than I think any of us would be comfortable knowing. I would like to try to get McMillan on the phone, but right now, I mean, this isn't his area of expertise, and while I think it'd be of tremendous benefit, right now I'd rather just be going forward with this. So Mariupol, the situation there is dire. They are targeting civilians. They are trying to break the will of this city. The city is right here. And as you can see, they have, well, for all intents and purposes, surrounded it. You could go take the road to the north, but they've actually got that road where you go far enough. So it's surrounded. If the reason they need that city is you can see there's a road, and that road is going to allow them to supply the Donbass area from Crimea. Crimea is the largest port in the area, and they have all their supplies in Crimea. They were doing all the staging from Crimea. That's where their field medical facilities are. So they need that road. At this point, it looks like they are pouring everything they have into Mariupol. They're attempting two different strategies at the same time. They're cutting the city completely off from everybody and everything so they can starve it out. No food, no water, nothing. They will shell and kill anything that tries to get food or supplies in there. The other thing they're doing is they're shelling, and they're hitting civilians. We've got some footage of it. It's as bad as any fighting we've seen so far. They need that city, and it's crystal clear. So far, Mariupol has held out. It will not. I don't know when it's going to fall. With any luck, it's days away. but I think that's unlikely. And at this point, they are going to lose. It's just a question of how long they can hold out and how many losses they're going to take. This is rather disturbing for another reason, and I've mentioned this before, and I think it's worth mentioning. I tried to find the book because I believe it or not, I moved in here 10 years ago, and I still haven't unpacked all my books. The 900-Day Siege of Leningrad was a book on and it's a tough read. I couldn't read huge swaths of it because it's widely considered one of the worst sieges in human history. Germany needed to take Leningrad in order to continue on to Moscow, the capital of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had been caught off guard. Germany had hit them with a surprise attack. There had been a non-aggression pact. Stalin had come apart, and we talked about this last night. He was drinking himself into a stupor. He wasn't giving any orders, and Russians aren't going to think creatively. That's strongly discouraged, and so nobody was doing anything. And Leningrad eventually became basically encircled. Every now and then they could get supplies through, but it was rare. People were starving to death. They were getting shelled and hit heavily, and that city held out for 900 days before finally the armies, I think it was the Soviet army that started to break through. The American army, if I recall, had a large bit to do with it, which is one reason any Russians who were alive at the time still look fondly upon Americans, and that's World War II. I think that, again, there's a very big misunderstanding of what Russians really think of the U.S. We know what the government thinks and what the government tells them to think, but a lot of them were around for this. There's the babushka, that was the so-called grandmother. It was an old lady who was arrested. She is now one of, I believe it's 7,000 detainees that Russia has as they are arresting anybody who protests. She was alive for that. She spent 3 years in Leningrad under the worst siege in human history. And it was one of those things that after the war, they said they would absolutely never forget. They are attempting to do the same thing with Kiev. They have failed. It looks like they're going to succeed in Mariupol. They will completely cut it off. And the question is, who's going to break first? The citizens of Mariupol? Well, no, it's not even a question. The question is, are they going to be starved out? Or are they going to be shelled out? And how long is it going to take to do it? So that's what we're looking at Mariupol. At any rate, let's move on. We're going to be expecting some of the worst fighting so far. There, French President Emmanuel Macron, the only Western leader who has actually been in constant contact with Putin since the invasion, says that he spoke with Putin today and found the president very different than in previous conversations. He said the tone was more tense and that Putin appeared distracted. The call lasted 90 minutes. Macron said he was left feeling it with the understanding that this is only going to get worse. He said, quote, the worst is yet to come, and that Putin would not be deterred in any way from this. He told Putin, quote, your country will pay dearly because it will end up an isolated country, weakened and under sanctions for a very long time. And he said that he called on Vladimir Putin not to lie to himself in this regard. Macron said that this appeal had no impact on Putin, and Putin made it clear under no circumstances would he cease these attacks. The Kremlin, the Kremlin news service has now acknowledged the meeting and quoted Putin as having told Macron that the objectives of this, quote, special military operation, that's the code that he's using. It is how he justifies this. It's not an invasion. It's not a war. It's just a military operation. Would be fulfilled over Macron's objections, and said that, let's see, he also was quoted as having told Macron that, quote, any attempt to gain time by dragging negotiations will only lead to additional requirements from Kiev in our negotiating position. Putin also noted that he took considerable objections to Macron's comments, saying that this had been a brutal attack and framing this as a war of choice for Russia. A new round of sanctions, meanwhile, hit yesterday, and today the U.S. has escalated in sanctions, and we were going to have that full list for you, but again, we broke early, so I do apologize. I do know they've added new oligarchs to that. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied now that they are not going to institute martial law. However, as I said, I think the number is 7,000. I should have the official number in just a minute, but about 7,000 people have been detained and arrested. We have the footage from that. I'll bring that up in a bit, of trucks filled with people going down the streets in Russia, just loaded with protesters. They're arresting anybody who protests. There's now a 14-year prison sentence for anyone who spreads what they are calling misinformation about this, and that includes calling this anything but a special military operation. Calling this a war in public, saying that this is a war in public, now is met with a 14-year prison sentence in Russia. Again, Russia is denying that they are going to impose martial law on the country. However, several intelligence organizations believe that, yes, in fact, they're going to be implementing martial law across Russia tomorrow. The Secretary of National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Oleksiy Danolyov, has said that he believes that he's seen intelligence that is telling him that they're going to impose martial law across the country tomorrow. He has come on air in Ukraine saying this. Russians have actually picked up on this and are saying it's not true. We'll see. He said, quote, "First, this data available to our intelligence that March 4th, the Russian Federation is set to indeed impose martial law on the country. I'd like to see how Moscow and St. Petersburg, where there's a lot of intelligentsia, will react to this as they understand what is happening in the Russian Federation. Today, if Putin lacks cannon fodder, he can take children he's drafting into the army and deploying here into our meat grinder. I don't understand why he is doing this." And I'm not sure, but I think what he was trying to say was he's going to need to take those troops out of Ukraine and put them in Russian cities. He also noted that many Russians who hold positions in government are claiming at this point not to understand Putin's thinking on this. He was asked about the statement that Putin intends to remove all nationalists from Ukraine. His response, quote, "Then I must say that 95% of citizens of our country will have to be killed." Meanwhile, sort of along these same lines, we keep hearing increased reports of what these people have been told. They're all fresh young recruits. Most of them were lied to. On February 23rd, a tank driver named Razil Malikov called his family and said that he was being deployed to military exercises. There were drills in Crimea, and it was going to be quick in and out, but he'd be out of contact for a little bit. But he explicitly told his family, at least they are reporting, that these were drills. The next morning, Russia invaded Ukraine, and Makalnikov had not been heard since. Malikov has not been heard since. However, there's a video. We'll try to get to that too. We've got it. So you'll have to, after I've done all this, we'll play the videos that I've been referencing. There's been a video posted of interviews with captured Russian soldiers. You always have to be extremely skeptical of these things. I don't care if you're an American and it's your side playing these. I don't care. There's an incentive to get these people to say what you want to hear. And by the way, they're probably, for every one that's saying exactly what the military wants you to hear, there could be as many as 10, 20 you don't know that are saying the opposite. They're controlling exactly what you hear from these soldiers. But it does confirm what we're hearing from other sources, and it appears genuine as much as one can tell under this set of circumstances. But Malikov was actually one of the soldiers, and he was one of the ones who apologized and said that he had no idea that this was an actual invasion. He was told that this was a training exercise, and once it started, he would be a deserter if he just left. He was already in. They don't treat deserters well in Russia, so he didn't have a chance to object before going, and once it was started, he's a soldier fighting the war. His brother has said that at this point, he believes this. He said that he had no idea he could be sent to the Ukraine, and he and their family and everyone is in a state of shock. In Moscow, the regional office of the Committee of Soldiers' Mothers of Russia has been fielding reported 2,000 calls a day since the invasion. Quote, Alexander Latunin said, quote, "The parents' first question is, what happened to my child? Is he alive?" Now, Putin started this by saying the soldiers were apparently told that this was a training exercise. Putin told his people that they were going in for humanitarian aid to protect the newly created, the quote, newly created countries in Donbass. Neither of them have been true. They haven't even really gone into Donbass, and they have started a massive offensive against the entire country of Ukraine. It turns out many more Russians are getting this than we had thought, and there's a significant amount of protest, and we're going to discuss a little bit more about what else has been happening over there. But we believe that is why we are at this point rather confident that he is going to institute martial law. It lets him shut down the internet. It lets him shut down a whole bunch of services he cannot otherwise shut down, and too much information is reaching people. At any rate, let's see. It wasn't until, I think it was yesterday, that the Russians acknowledged, no, it was the fourth day in, so that would be Sunday, that the Russians acknowledged that, in fact, there were casualties, that this was not just a peacekeeping mission and that there were casualties. Putin now does appear to be acknowledging, at least in some circles, that this is, in fact, that there are troops engaged in combat in Ukraine. But what he is saying is they are liberating Ukraine. But, and I'm aware they're used to being lied to. But the reality is, okay, how did that happen? How did they even enter in Ukraine? Or the Russian people are finding out after the battle has been going on for 4 days that, oops, sorry, what we told you was humanitarian is actually a battle to liberate Ukraine. Okay. To some Russians, the toll in human lives is reason enough to end the war, let alone the sanctions. OVD Info, an activist group that tallies arrests, has counted 7,359 Russians detained in 7 days of protest across the country. Alexei Navalny, who is, I believe, the opposition leader in Russia, said, quote, "It's the third decade of the 21st century, and we are watching news about people burning in tanks and bombed out of buildings." He called on Russians to rally and to actively oppose the war. Quote, "Let's not be against the war. Let's fight against the war." Meanwhile, members of the Russian elite are continuing to speak out. We had the $1 million bounty on the removal of Putin with a poster that said "Wanted dead or alive" for mass murder. That was posted on LinkedIn, which I guess is the new du jour website for assassinations. I should probably take my profile off of LinkedIn. I was unaware that they had changed their mission statement so dramatically, and I'm not sure I want my profile on there. I'm gonna have to think about that one. If LinkedIn really has done that kind of rebranding, that's worth knowing. Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, this is tough. All of this is tough, and I do apologize, and we're just trying to get through it, and I know this is not what anyone wants to do on a Thursday. Ludmila Narusov, a member of the upper house of parliament in Russia, told the independent Dozed television channel that dead Russian soldiers in Ukraine lay, quote, unburied, wild stray dogs gnawing on the bodies that in some cases cannot be identified because they are so badly burned. The Russian International Affairs Council, a government-funded think tank in Russia, published an article describing the war as a strategic debacle. Ivan Timorev said that Ukrainian society would now, quote, see Russia as an enemy for decades to come, and added that the veiled warnings directed at government officials who were cracking down on people speaking out at the war, he issued a warning against government officials, including Putin, who were cracking down on people speaking against the war, said, quote, "History shows us that those who look for, quote, traitors, sooner or later themselves become victims of enthusiasts and well-wishers." He is the program's director. This is a Russian government-funded think tank. Meanwhile, none of this appears to have any impact on Putin's campaign or his intentions. As you know, when we said just a few minutes ago, Macron spoke with him and came away from that meeting saying this is going to get worse. And Macron has since followed up saying that, in his view, Putin will not stop. And Putin basically said as much to him. The government has signaled that it will intensify its crackdown against critics on the war, including, again, anyone who calls it a war instead of a, quote, special military operation is now subject to 14 years in prison. Let's see. That's okay. The Parliament, the Kremlin covered that. At this point, the concern is that Mr. Putin is going to go so far as a crackdown that Tatiana Stoyanovna, who is a scholar and a Putin expert, because I guess why not study Putin, said that she believed it was, quote, more than logical to expect that lawmakers this weekend would approve the imposition of martial law in order to block the internet, ban all protests, and restrict Russians from being able to leave the country. Russians have been trying to leave this country. They're concerned. I do think we're going to start to see mass starvation there. They have no way of getting food. They have no way of paying for it. The ruble is falling. Even if the ruble wasn't losing value, the price of everything is going up. Nobody's trading with them. They're losing money in almost every sector. Actually, they're losing money in oil, but at least they can still sell in oil for now. Things are about to get very, very bad over there. They're already getting bad. And again, we had some footage of that. That may not be in the system yet. So, if this is winning, I'd like to see what losing looks like. I can tell this action has not benefited anybody anywhere on the planet, except maybe China. The only winners of this is China. Oh, dear Lord. All right, I think that covers it. As I said, I did want to, well-wishers is an interesting way to put it. I really did want to cover what else is going on in the U.S. We went live with the nuclear reactor as soon as we could, and that just means most of the rundown wasn't complete. And the system was prepared for a very different show than what we're doing. Well, not very different, unfortunately. So the graphics and everything that we had planned are just not finished, loaded, or completed yet. May have some of it done. I'll start to load it in as we cover it. And what I'm going to do is, I guess, work my way backwards. We do have, this should be an accurate picture here. Yeah. So, and it doesn't want to load that, of course. All right. Let me see if I can just do a quick workaround here. And there we are. That's the power plant. So at least some of the reactors were already shut down. Those stacks should be able to withstand, I mean, if they're built to American standards, those tanks should be able to withstand a direct hit from an airplane without the core being exposed. One of the administrative buildings was on fire. We don't see the fire anymore. In fact, the footage has been cut, but we do know that there are still multiple fires there, but the fires appear to be in an administrative building. They do have silos that house... thank you. Do have silos that house the nuclear material. The nuclear waste is an interesting problem. One of the things is you really kind of don't want to keep it on site for any number of reasons. You can deposit it deep into a mountain, do whatever you want to. There are ways to get rid of it. But you'd best not to keep it on site if you can do it. But one of the advantages to keeping it on site is you don't have to transport it across the country. And frankly, it's already at a nuclear site. And nobody wants to increase and have more nuclear sites around. So you're going to put the waste into some other place. It's, so in general, some places just store it all on site. They store on site here all of the spent fuel. What that means is if one of those buildings gets hit, it's going to get dispersed. If it catches on fire, it's going to get dispersed rapidly. So, all right. Oh, and you posted the link. Thank you, sir. All right. So, I moved on and missed this. So, the Ukrainian-born oligarch Miguel Mikhail Watford was found dead in his home. This is interesting. It's one of those things that we need to sit and talk about. So who was he? That's a good question. He is one of the so-called oligarchs. Now, what do we know about the oligarchs so far that have been opposing Putin? There's at least 3, and my suspicion has to be at least 4 confirmed. Who are the 3? The first 3 were, and I've forgotten their names, but the first 2 came out against the war and said Putin must stop this. That's about as strong as you can get, and an oligarch doing that, he's shooting himself in the foot because Putin isn't going to throw money his way after this, which means he thinks at this point he's going to lose less money if he goes after Putin instead of not. So none of the oligarchs care about Putin in the slightest. They're interested in money and power, and he gives that to them. As long as he keeps giving that to them, they love him. Second he stops, it's what have you done for me lately? If he hasn't done anything, they'll find someone who does and replace him with that. And he knows that. But what he gets out of it is they spread Russian influence. They spend money. They go out and they, make deals for Russia. And they bring in a lot of money to Russia. And a lot of them are ex-KGB just like him. If he says, there's this guy who's been publishing a lot of articles in the newspaper that say I'm doing mean things, that guy's gone. It's not necessarily oligarchs per se, each and every time, but they're perfectly willing to do this. This also means they're perfectly willing to kill him if they need to. 2 oligarchs came out and on their Twitter account condemned him, did so publicly so everyone knows who they are. A third one came out. Nobody knows the identity of this third one. Released essentially the meeting notes. I'm making it sound more formal than it was. Explained what had happened in previous meetings. Putin was furious, out of touch with reality, blaming generals for having lied to him and saying that the capacity of the army was greater than it actually was. And we learned a whole bunch of what was going on in Putin's head, if you trust the source. New York Times did not reveal who the source was, but they did confirm it was an oligarch, and it was one of the named oligarchs. I mean, it was one of the big ones. It's not, some guy somewhere at the bottom of the food chain. So that's all we know. Then a 4th oligarch came out and did something slightly controversial by putting a bounty of $1 million on Putin's head on LinkedIn. So how many oligarchs is that? Well, if you just count, that's 4, but the problem is you don't know who the third anonymous one was. That one you don't know. Now, if that third one is the same as the 4th, which it's possible, then we only have 3 oligarchs who've done this. It is possible they're the same. It's highly unlikely because if the guy is being an anonymous, it's hard to imagine. Okay, so I studied business in college, and one of the things I learned was that if you put a bounty on your boss's head, especially if it's over like $5, I mean, if it's $5, maybe people just like, and if it's like the kind of bounty like because you're playing Murder the Game, that's one thing. But if you actually put a bounty of $1 million on your boss's head, it's really hard to screw up at work more than that. Okay? I mean, it's just like your next HR report is going to be bad. I'm just saying. Now, if this is the anonymous oligarch, it's really hard to imagine why he's anonymously spilling notes about what happened at a meeting, but publicly saying, kill my boss, I'll give you $1 million. I don't think he's interested in hiding anymore. So I personally take that as strong evidence that we have 4 oligarchs and not 3. But just it has to be made aware. People are like, oh, it's 4 because of the anonymous one. Yeah, but the anonymous one's anonymous, so he could be the 4th one as well. So we don't know. I'm assuming going forward it's 4, and the reason is I don't know what the hell is there to remain anonymous? He put out a bounty on LinkedIn for $1 million for Putin's death. I don't see what he needs to be anonymous for. But, okay, we've covered that. Where's John Wick when you need him? No shit. Ukrainian-born oligarch Mikhail Watford. Watford is not normally a Russian name. Was found dead at his home in Surrey, that's in the UK. The police say that the death is unexplained, but not suspicious. What does that mean? Because that sounds like that's a contradiction in terms. To the best of my ability to understand, what that means is there was no forced entry. There was no reason to believe that there were no marks on the body. There was no struggle, no nothing. But they don't know what killed him. He was just found dead. So could be a heart attack. Could be anything. Russians have the ability to kill people pretty easily and quickly with any number of poisons. Most of the poisons they use are radioactive and or heavy metal based. And when somebody's poisoned with that, you know very quick. They leave a very specific signature, and they linger. They don't just die right away. This guy was not, if he was assassinated, it wasn't any of the traditional methods that are used in Russia. But the first thought that crossed my mind is this number 3? Is this the anonymous source? That is wild speculation. There's no way to know. There's a lot of oligarchs, but I will say that is the first thought that crossed my mind. Is this that third oligarch? It should be noted that on any given day, the chance of one of the oligarchs just suddenly popping off from natural causes is about the same as the chance of you or I or anybody else dying of natural causes on any given day. It's about the same. Suspicious things happen all the time. Really bizarre things happen all the time. I am a fan of studying and, okay, that is not, Brady, you're going to need a source on that. I'm looking at The Guardian right now that says that's not suspicious, and I have to believe most police officers, if they found someone hanging by a noose, would call that suspicious. It may be suicide, I don't know, but yeah, we'll need a source on that. I'll double check the Guardian source. Like I said, we went early on this, so I'm still behind, and I do apologize for that. But yeah, if you're going to make a claim like that on you're going to need to source that, please. At any rate, so that is, to the best of my knowledge, what they mean by unexplained but not suspicious. It is entirely possible that he died of natural causes, and the way I know that is because people die of natural causes all the time, and they die suspiciously of natural causes. It's the fact that he's an oligarch doesn't mean he's going to live any longer than any of us. He was 66. That's reasonably young to be dying of a heart attack or anything like that, but it happens all the time. Yeah, okay, so what I'm going to drop right now is a link to The Guardian. This is the source we're going on. So that's The Guardian. That's the source that I'm currently using. Says the police say it's and now hold on a sec. I'm just going to double check and see if I missed something in here. Let's see. There's no suggestion that he's been the target of, and actually, it looks like this is one of the oligarchs. Some of the oligarchs still have not yet been sanctioned. It looks like he is one of the ones that has not been sanctioned yet. His body was discovered Monday, February 28th, which begs the question, why are we learning about this now unless I'm behind and this is just an old article? No, the article's from today. So apparently he was discovered on the 28th. That would be, I believe, after the anonymous source. The ambulance was called. He was pronounced dead at the scene. And that's all I have. So if there's anything else that we know, I haven't seen it yet. And I'm glad, listen, I'm perfectly perfectly willing to admit that we don't know a whole heck of a lot of that. So I am very interested in being educated. But a claim like that, if you're going to make a claim that specific, it's going to need to be sourced. Yeah, I will say this. If he was hanged, that would actually, and now that I think about it, probably wouldn't be necessarily suspicious to me. And here's why. There are easier ways to kill someone, and there's no reason to cover it up. In fact, if I'm Putin, I'd want people to know we killed him, because Putin needs to shut people up. And the fastest way to do that is make sure everybody knows how he died. And make it as unpleasant as possible. So I think right now, if I had to bet, I would bet that this is straight up natural causes. Even if he was found hanged, I'd probably still lean in that direction, but it makes the margin a little more narrow, I'll admit. But yeah, that's gonna be my guess. All right, so we got someone else who's saying it, so it looks like a few people have seen it. Yep, he was Ukrainian. That much I had. All right. Well, so all right. So if a few other people have read it, we still don't know what the sources are. I'm not going with it, but it's nice to know that there's at least a couple other people who seem to have understood the same thing. We're not gonna say that because we won't go without a source. But at a minimum, he's dead. Russian oligarch. Based on what I'm looking at, if I had to guess one way or the other, I'd say it's probably natural causes. It seems cray-cray, I know, but. If you're Putin and you want to kill someone who's been against you right now, you want everybody to know it. You want he rules by fear, and you don't get fear by anonymously killing people. Yeah, so I'm going to guess that if it's assassination, I'm going to guess he's the third oligarch. But that's what I'm going to guess. My guess is he'd be the third anonymous. If it was an assassination, I don't think it was. Let me rephrase that. If I had to bet, I'd say it's close. I'm going to say 49-51. Oh, it just occurred to me that anybody listening to this show, are you guys really doing an over-under on whether or not he was a human being and he was killed? And I don't like seeing anybody killed, to be quite honest. And frankly, because it would be the fastest way to stop it, I would not be sitting here. If you have a shot at Putin, I think you need to take it. But I'd rather him be put in prison. I'd rather he have to suffer the indignity of a trial. I'd rather he have to go through the whole process. So I'm not for killing Putin either, quite frankly. Better than letting this continue. I'm not saying it's not a viable alternative, but it's in most cases. No, I don't. I'm not pleased at the death of anybody. But at any rate, he's a Russian oligarch. That means he probably. I don't know how many of them are dirty. My understanding was, for the most part, you could assume they're all dirty, but I don't have facts on that. So I know a lot of them are. But all right. All right. So Jake 4D, thank you for that. Let me just check that out. And then we're going to do another rundown. I'm going to see Rush found dead at his home. This is India Today. I don't know how credible they are as a source, but I'll believe that they're reasonably credible at this point. And let's see if I can read more without hitting a paywall. That would be nice. On a list of, so he was not on the list of sanctioned, and that is interesting. Friends and family raised questions over the timing of his death. I would. Police do not say that there are any suspicious circumstances. They found him. He was pronounced dead. If there's anything in here that says he was found hanged, I don't see it. I don't know if that was your intent, but that's another. Jake, wording. Do you mean, Jake, that he was found hanged by the gardener, or that he was found by the gardener hanged? Because those are two very different statements, Jake. Just saying. I know what you mean, but I got to bust your balls. No, I'm going to pretend I don't know. What are you saying? The gardener did it? The gardener in the bedroom with the rope. All right. Let me just see this. Okay, I know I'm going through it quickly, but I haven't found anything. They say it's not suspicious. All right, what I'm seeing here. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. These are details. So, at this point, honestly, we've done most of the rundown. I mean, we've missed some stuff that we wanted to do. What I may do is just hit the Discord myself and go through it and try to get a refresher as to what's going on. If you'd like to catch up with what we do, how we do it, and see news as it's happening, that's our Discord. The Discord is faster than I am. We get most of the news that we're going to do for these shows from that Discord. So if you really want to see what's happening at the speed of news, join the Discord, check it out. And in fact, people who participate, I've got content as long as they know what they're doing, and we have standards. And if you can meet those standards, this show is community driven. So, come in and help us out, and help us decide what we're going to talk about. But, so that's the Discord. Anyone who wants to join it, I'm in there all the time. VC. Also, we bring in guests. We don't always do just breaking news, war. Most of the time, we're doing interviews with. Also, usually we love to do philosophy, social sciences, science, communication, all that stuff. So philosophy when we. When we can. And come learn a bit more about the channel, learn about the people who make it. Was found hanged by. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Wednesday. Appreciate it. All right. Yeah. Well, there are plenty of people who have reason to be pissed at the guy. And here's the other thing, right? You're him. Hasn't been sanctioned yet, which is odd. So that tells me a couple of things. there are some oligarchs who haven't been sanctioned. So either he's not really one of the big ones, but they're all going to need to get hit, or he flipped and he's been handing material to the U.S. and others, and that's why he hasn't been hit yet. In either case, he's probably under a tremendous amount of pressure. He's looking at some point, losing everything he's got, because he will either eventually be added to that list and he'll lose it all, or he's actually flipped, and that will be discovered at some point. He can't hide it. So in either case, he's facing losing absolutely everything. And he's Ukrainian, or Ukrainian-born. I don't know what that... I don't know. I don't know the guy's mental state. But it's not too much of a stretch for me to think that that's a tremendous amount of pressure. It's also, by the way, again, I'm not. Please don't mistake this for fighting against the idea that there was foul play here. That's the first thing that should be looked into. Let's cross that off the list. But what I'm arguing for is, let's not just assume because of the circumstances that means foul play. There are reasons that he would kill himself as well, I would imagine, under these circumstances. And now, I was about to say he could have died naturally. No, if he was found hanging, it's pretty hard to hang yourself naturally. I mean, it can be done, but Russia, that happens all the time. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. People die of natural causes in Russia left and right. It's the heart stops naturally after massive blood loss due to 6 stab wounds in the chest. Natural causes. So I'm really arguing that despite the obvious concern over the time and who he was, this is the UK. The UK has, to the best of my understanding, unless he was an informant, no interest in lying about how and why he died. So if the British police say there was nothing suspicious about it, my inclination is to at least start with the benefit of the doubt. They'd be willing to lie under any number of circumstances, but it's British police. In this they get the benefit of the doubt, and that's the lowest bar, and that's what I give them. But the biggest news in general, I'm very cautious about. We do run with third-party news. We run with social media as long as it looks credible, and we mention that it's social media, and that's one of the reasons we can beat most other network news organizations. But a detail like this that's credible, we're not just showing tanks going down the street and trying to give you the experience of what it is to live there. We're making an actual claim. I would be very hard-pressed to cede that point. I will happily cede that there are sources saying it, and probably reasonably credible sources, so I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. That's worth noting. I'm not going to say that our position is that that's how he died until we get that from a credible source, and I mean high-end credible, so it's Washington Post, LA Times, not LA Times, LA Times probably, Washington Post, New York Times, Guardian, AP, Reuters, anything in that list, and or in that vicinity. Short of that, I probably wouldn't want to say it. It begs the question, too, why haven't they said it yet? Any number of reasons. Doesn't mean it's wrong, but that's just how we operate. And thank God, because that stopped more than one mistake from going on air. One of my favorites, I'll tell you this one, then we're going to do into a rundown. I'm trying to lighten things with a few interesting stories. I don't know who remembers this. I think, Jake, most of the people who are here now were around for this. I forget why it ended up being breaking news. I think it was during the riots 2 summers ago. And we've been covering the riots, and then the rioters had gotten into the zoo and released in Chicago all the animals from the zoo. And then we got footage of this lion sauntering down somebody's, just sauntering down a street. It was a residential street, and the lion's just chillaxing like, looking for some lunch. And it was nighttime, though, if I recall, and he's just going down. All right, thank you. Got it, Jake. I'll take a look at that, but if Jake says it's there, it's there. So, and we've got somebody. Let me see who we've got coming in now. Let me just quickly check. I did bring that up, but Zandring is here, so we're going to bring Zandring into the show. He'll be here in a sec. By the way, those of you who noticed that the intro was a lot louder than usual, I spent a good deal of the day revamping the audio, so the audio should be coming through pretty well, and we should not be having that echo problem. Having said that, didn't have a chance to test it, so we'll see. Anyway, I'll bring Zandring on in just a second, but to finish, Yeah. So we had this lion just sauntering down, and then just goes into some guy's lawn. There's a sprinkler nearby. Sits down and just chillaxes. Had a hippo going down, just like bumping along, nuzzling a car. Had a giraffe. All of these things, and we came very close to airing that story. We were going live with it, and it was true that the protesters had breached the zoo and had released some of the animals. What we didn't know is none of the animals had actually really escaped the zoo. The footage that we were getting sent was from 2 previous incidents where animals had in fact escaped the zoo in the past 10 years. But that footage was 10 years old. And we caught that at the very last minute right before, and it was already in the interface. We were good to go. And I was just doing a second check on everything. I said, wait a minute. And I forget what triggered it. Either there was something, I could just tell like the weather was wrong. And I think the time that one of them was at day, the other one was at night. I was like, they can't both be true. It's like, what the hell's going on? And we go and we look at it and we figure it out. But, we do our best not to make these kinds of mistakes. So even when it comes to funny stories, I wanted to air that too. We needed the laugh. It's just, imagine you're getting your newspaper, you open the door, there's a lion looking at you like, hey, buddy, got any fancy fees or anything like that? Just asking, because if you don't, you might have to be lunch. Oh, dear Lord. Yeah. Yeah. This is, you take one look at me. I know I don't necessarily screen professionalism. The standard isn't going to get broken here, period, end of discussion. So, is Andrew, welcome. How are you? I don't know what you're up on and what you're not, but, let's see. Hopefully he can hear me. This suggests he can. That would be a miracle.
It would be a miracle.
And I heard him on the first shot. Wow. Last final question is really going to be now. I will bet you there is an echo in the audience because it looks like the second line that I pulled is still in there. But I'm going to double check that. So I'll ask you for a sound check in just 1 second. But first, let me see. So that would be boom, boom. Yeah, we don't need both of those. I'm going to pull that one, and this should work. So how are you?
Oh, doing good. I just parked a couple minutes ago. I didn't see your message earlier, and so I popped up and I was like, oh, well, let's see if you're still live. And so just as I come in, you're like, oh, we're thinking we're going to wrap this up, so I wasn't going to do anything. And then you just kept going and going. And I was like, okay, well, if you're just going to keep going, then I'll go ahead and jump on the line.
Yep. All right. Well, that's good. It'll give me a second. I did want to get some footage in here. And
oh, good. While you put the footage in there, I'll express one of my concerns that I'm kind of worried about.
Please do.
So I've been catching up, since I'm out on the road, I've been catching up on all of the different podcasts and shows and stuff that I normally watch. And one of the people had brought up a fairly good point in that because of the way Putin is, the fact that he doesn't seem to ever back down from anything or anyone, that with all of the mounting pressure coming against him, them targeting the oligarchs around him, one of the things that needs to be made fairly clear, and so far hasn't, is some way out. Because if you just keep pushing him into the corner, he's going to get more and more aggressive. He's not just going to capitulate. So if he can protect himself enough that the oligarchs don't take him out, are successful, or the military doesn't just completely turn on him, you're just going to push him more and more into a corner. And we don't want to put him in a corner with absolutely no way out. Not that kind of person, because he's already shown that he's quite willing to just wipe out large populations, and he doesn't give a shit. And of course, this is exactly what he did in oh crap, what the heck is that country that broke up? Not Chechnya. Anyway, one of the other countries back a couple of years ago, he just bombed the ever-loving hell out of the population centers, killed thousands of people. This was, I think, in the 2000s. And then he started kind of doing the same kinds of things in Georgia as well. So it's like we already know that the Russians will just go in and wipe out huge population centers. And it's not like they attack like the United States does, where they sometimes have bad intelligence about what they're striking, but the strikes themselves are almost always very precise, and the Russians aren't. So you don't want to put this guy in a corner with zero way out. I mean, at least not if you care about the Ukrainian people. So I've not really been seeing a whole bunch of. I've seen some foreign policy pundits, kind of hinting at there should be some sort of way out for Putin, and that we need to specifically make that way out pretty clear. And even if it's not what we would like to have happen, we still need to create an avenue for him to be able to pull himself out, even if we have to let him retain some sort of dignity or anything. Because once you put him in the corner, I was never worried about, nuclear war until everything started degrading so much, and he started doing more and more collateral damage. And we're at a point now where I would not put it past him to use a tactical nuclear strike against a city in Ukraine. So I would rather not happen, and would rather not have him pushed to the point where he thought he needed to do that, because I don't think that he's going to give up. He's either going to win, or he's going to find a way out that allows him to maintain, power, influence, prestige, whatever you want to call it. So I think that we should be. Go ahead.
You had said, though, that is, of course, if one of the oligarchs don't take him out, which, I mean, I think the hope is that one does.
Yeah, but I mean, you're talking about somebody who has lived this kind of life his entire life, and I don't think that the oligarchs really have much in the way of, it's not like they can just drop a large bomb on an area they think that he's in. Trying to get somebody close enough to actually assassinate him, I think, is not going to be something that is simply done. So unless they can actually convince, like most all of the military, to try and turn around and go specifically after him, and I'm not convinced that they can do that. But that would be I think the only way that the oligarchs themselves would be able to try and take Putin out, is if they managed to convince, the leadership of the military to turn their forces against Putin himself. And even then, I still think that that could still be difficult. You're not going to just take a target out like that with ease. So if they can do it, then that would probably be the fastest way to end the problem, because they can say, yeah, there's been a change in leadership. Sorry, the stress of running the war really got to Putin, and he died of some natural causes. My favorite line is still, because a bullet to the brain quite naturally ends one's life.
Yeah. Well, so
but that's not an easy thing to do. Well, it's not an easy thing to do, and this looks like it's going to degrade into a pretty nasty guerrilla type warfare. Because Ukraine isn't giving up; they're fighting. We're some of especially the European countries, are now belatedly starting to send lots of weapons to them. The stance that is starting to be taken by Europe, which I'm not sure yet exactly how I feel about it, but Europe is kind of waking up and realizing that they don't have a military to speak of, and there's crazy people like Putin out there, and so they're deciding to arm up. Germany especially. I mean, they've taken some pretty radical 180 on their military spending, and they're really amping up. So
the EU,
I'm not sure yet how I feel about that.
For the audience that does not know, because we haven't covered this, and this is one of the things that's unfortunately slipped through the crack, and I apologize, which is the EU has authorized the building of an EU army, so their own army on Europe. It looks like Germany is at this point actually been asked to help contribute, not only by contributing soldiers, but also by essentially, from what it looks like, building their own army. So it's that's something we haven't seen in a little while, and reasons. So yeah, that's a little concerning. I just apologize. And that's not just Europe either. I mean, yeah, it's not just Europe either. It's like for the first time, Japan's actually said that they might consider housing U.S.
nuclear weapons in Japan. I mean, it's the little bit of ripple going through the world right now is kind of realizing that, wow, you know, the United States essentially spends more than all of us combined on its military, and now we have this issue going on that just shows kind of how brutal war can actually be. I think a lot of people may have been a bit lulled in the war coverage when you look at what the United States does or what Israel does. They've got very advanced weaponry that's incredibly accurate. You know, when we screw up and blow something up that we shouldn't have, it's not that the weapons missed, it's that the intelligence was incorrect and we targeted the wrong thing. And now we're seeing that Russia doesn't have the same kind of capabilities as the United States and like Israel. I mean, Israel just gets most of its weapons from the United States anyway. But when you look at a really advanced military, what it can do versus what the Russian army can do, which is just pound the hell out of everything and just destroy everything, there is no precision strikes coming from Russia, and it's been kind of a wake-up call, I think, to a lot of these countries that go like, we don't have any way of defending ourselves, let alone our neighbors, you know, and that there are real threats out there. So I'm not sure exactly how I feel about that.
I do want to follow up on that, so please don't forget it. But since really the reason we went early tonight was because, so for those of you who missed it, there was a firefight that included rocket-propelled grenades at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It's the largest power plant in Europe. It is in Ukraine. We had footage of it. In fact, I'm going to bring this up right here. This is, you can see the fire there. It's one of the buildings. It's right in between two buildings there. That was, we believe, in some form of administrative building. They do store their nuclear materials on site. So the concern wasn't so much for the plant itself, which we are now being told it is secured. I don't know if they have the ability to just dump so much I don't know if I assume it's controlled sort of through standard control. I don't know how this thing is built, but there's a question of, can they actually shut it down by just absorbing so much of the what is it, that it can no longer self-sustain. So I don't know if they can do that. I don't know on what grounds they're saying it's secured, but they're saying it's secured. The issue was the nuclear waste, which they store on site. They don't remove it. And if any of the buildings gets hit, there was at least one shell that did land here. There were multiple rocket-propelled grenades and at least 2 fires. The big ones were put out after about an hour. We don't know about the smaller ones. Presumably they're done, but we are now hearing from the director of the plant, Alexander Staruk. Wow. That, quote, the director of the plant said that the nuclear safety is now guaranteed. I don't know how you guarantee it on the waste, but presumably he means in terms of we're not going to see a meltdown. That was one of the things we said early on. In our view, we weren't really talking about a meltdown. You might be able to get one if the core can't be shut down and if you hit the core hard, but those cores are insulated against really pretty significant hits, including an airplane hit. And even before 9/11, they were designed to withstand a direct hit from an airplane because accidents happen. And they are insured against earthquakes and stuff like that. So it looks like he's saying the cores are safe. Ostensibly, the remaining 2 reactors, I think that were still hot, may hopefully be down now. The nuclear material, we don't know, but it appears as if nothing's been released. There were reports that there was increased radiation in the area. None of that was confirmed, and so I'm assuming at this point going forward that there was no release. Yeah, that's why we went early. So normally we were going to go at 9, but yeah, so I don't know, Randolph, what they're reporting now. That was when we went live. That was the situation. There was a fire trucks attempting to get to the fire, and they were stopped. We didn't know what. If it was snipers, it may have been that. Ostensibly it was a military operation, and it's like, I think both sides would like to see the fire trucks get to the nuclear material that's going to catch on fire. That's just not an expert. But at any rate, the fires do appear to be out, and to the best of my understanding, it is secured. We have that from the AFP news agency. I don't even know who they are. I'm reasonably sure that that's the status of it right now. And they were hit. The Russian forces hit, and it looks like at least one shell hit somewhere in there, and multiple rocket-propelled grenades. I'm not. We can bring McMillan on here, but I think he would tell you don't bring rocket-propelled grenades to a nuclear power plant. That's Xander. Your thoughts on that?
I would appreciate it if you didn't fire grenades at the nuclear core.
Yeah, I think. Well said. Well said.
The other thing that's kind of dangerous about that is, you can go to emergency shutdown and shut down a nuclear reactor, which means it's just no longer generating power. You have to continue to cool that core for something like 6 months. And if you don't, if something fails, this was one of the concerns with Fukushima, is if you don't continue keeping that cooling water going over that, the core will eventually start melting down again. And you have to cool those cores for a very, very long time to get them down to the point where they stopped reacting. Because even if there's a small reaction, it will build until it starts melting down again. So you have to keep them cooled for a long time. So it's not like you can just flip a switch and say, okay, it's shut down now, we're all good. Well, no, not really. If you take out the cooling capability of the plant, then you're still going to end up with a meltdown, and that's a bad thing. So you really probably shouldn't shoot anything, whether the columns and whether the core is actually reinforced or not. It should be. And ostensibly it is. They're not stupid. They lived through Chernobyl. They should know what they're doing with nuclear power plants. But you still shouldn't fire anything at the plants, because you could end up causing collateral damage that can cause pretty difficult problems to solve.
Why do you think they would do this? I mean, ostensibly, the only thing that they really need or want to do now, to the best of my understanding, might be to just shut off. I mean, I suppose they want to be able to leave power to cities. Maybe it's just they want to control the plants so they control who gets power and who doesn't. And if you want to cut off power to Mariupol, just cut anything coming out of the plant, and you can leave the plant intact. Or maybe they wanted to I don't know. Maybe they wanted to. Maybe they can, individually control elements of the grid, and they wanted to determine which cities get power and which ones don't. But, dear Lord, was that a dumb thing to do?
The only thing I can think of. I mean, there's a lot of dumb things going on, but the only thing I can think of is if they did want to take control of the power plant, so they could shut it down, so they could control power. That's a fairly standard kind of tactic. If you can control power grids, you have a lot better control over whoever your adversary is. And then I think somebody made a stupid mistake and started shooting, and then it erupted into everybody's now shooting. At least I hope that's what happened. I really hope that they're not dumb enough to think, hey, let's shoot at the nuclear reactor and see how that goes for us, because nobody wins if the thing melts down.
I want to see if we still have loaded here, because that got me thinking of that battle that we played yesterday, where you got to see just how noob some of these people were, and the system's been reset so many times we've gone through. Okay, it looks like I don't have it. I'm going to see if I can get that up. I don't know if you saw it yesterday. It may be worth replaying, because it'll also show you a little bit about just how. And we're learning now more and more that these are, some of them are conscripts, most of them, almost all of them. And what you see on your right, you see these are soldiers that were being interviewed coming out. We discussed one of these soldiers already. His family says that they heard from him as he was in Ukraine, Crimea. And he said, yeah, we're finishing up the exercises tomorrow, and then I'm coming home. And that was the day before the invasion. He was told, or at least he reported to his family, that what he was doing was exercises, and that they weren't actually going to engage in any fighting, let alone actually attempting to attack or trying to conquer another country. So, yeah. Okay, it was the Battle of Techno House, which we aired yesterday. We may air again just to. I don't know if his Andring saw that. I think he'd want to see it if he hasn't. So, just brutal. It was complete losses on the Russian side. A humiliating defeat, but it's worth getting into. All right. Ostensibly, I do want to cover this, and then we'll do the Battle of Techno House, and then see about wrapping this up. I think if the power plant is under control, we've hit most of the things that we wanted to for today. This right here is the entire war right now is about this town, Mariupol. The reason it's about this town is because this town is right on this road here. It looks like it's at M14, and you can see that road. It connects the two red areas. Those are both Russian-controlled areas. And if they get that, they have then connected Crimea, which is their principal staging area, and it's the largest port in the area, and they can just send any supplies and anything they want to there. And, oh, that seems to have locked up. Oh, okay. The Donbass area here, and then they'll be able to shuttle supplies back and forth. And this has been we believe that they were attempting to get that done 12 hours into the battle. It's been, now we're on day 8, and they still haven't done it. It's Mariupol now. Everything is about that. Obviously, Kiev is the end game. They want Kiev, but right now, the Battle of Mariupol is where absolutely everything is. Mariupol cannot hold out. They will lose. They will absolutely lose. I don't know if power has been cut. I do know that supplies aren't getting in. They don't have food. They don't have water, and they're being shelled. There are two strategies being tried here simultaneously. The first strategy is to starve them out, bringing back memories of the 900-day siege of Leningrad. Russians should know better. And the babushka, who was arrested, having lived through 3 years of the worst siege in human history during World War II, protesting this, and it looks like they're about to attempt it on a population in Ukraine. But they're also shelling, and they're shelling very badly. Some of the worst shelling of the war to date has been there, and we are anticipating it is going to escalate. French President Macron spoke with Putin today, and he came from that saying this is going to get worse. Putin will not move. Putin will not budge. He is going to take all of Ukraine if he possibly can. So that's Mariupol. I don't know how long it's going to last. It really depends on how much suffering these people are willing to endure. Though we've discussed this before, in some ways it's a waiting game. The hope is somebody takes out Putin in one way or another. The $1 million bounty put on his head on LinkedIn. I just can't. I can't believe how many times I've said. There's no amount of times me saying that sentence. It feels natural. Yeah. Okay. But between that and the oligarchs, everybody's pissed at him, and he's losing control of his country. We do believe that a full curfew, martial law is going to be declared in Russia tomorrow. That's our belief. Russia's denying it. Two separate intelligence agencies seem to believe it's going to happen, and one of Russia's largest historical researchers, who our expertise is Putin, says, yeah, it's going to happen. Of course it's going to happen. This is how he operates, and he has to stop what's happening inside the country. 7,300 people have been arrested and detained. Even calling this a war in Russia is now punishable by 14 years in jail. So that's Mariupol. As you can see, they have they're trying to join these areas that they've hit, and you can see there's a dash here down these two main roads to try to completely encircle Kiev. They have failed to do so. The column is still stalled, and thank God for that, because it's 40 miles of troops, and it's stalled 10 miles out of the main target, so thank God. They have not seen the worst of the shelling. We think they will at some point. The worst of the shelling up until Mariupol has been right here. This is the second largest city, Kharkiv, that they're trying to take, and Kharkiv is being hit very badly. You can see, actually, that's Kharkiv right now on the screen. Literally, highways, roads. This is a news crew that actually just caught one of the attacks. We also have the footage that we've shown now several times of what appears to be. I'm going to show this one more because it's in my view shows you exactly what happens. This is Kharkiv. And what you can see here is those are apartment buildings in the back, and those are shells going off all around. And you can see more shells just going off. Now, we did have a freeze frame of the shells landing on another one. It was actually just a neighborhood, residential neighborhood, and a camera caught about 8 or 9 incoming rockets, all on the same frame. And the next frame, they all detonate across a village in Russia. It's an incredible shot, and like I said, that's the government building in Kharkiv. That's their main government headquarters. So I forget what I was saying. We were talking about Putin, and there was one comment I wanted to make because you had brought up, I thought, an interesting point, and I wanted to ask about it. Oh, yeah, Commander McMillan said last night that the way he thought this would end up having to end is they will, maybe they take Kiev, install a puppet government, and then bail and say, well, we took Ukraine because he just needs the mission accomplished banner, right? So, Chloe, good to see you. Thank you so much for coming by, Chloe. Always love to have you come by. So, thank you for joining us. Wish we had something better for you. So the mission accomplished. He just needs the mission accomplished banner. He needs people to buy it. It doesn't have to be real. So he does that. He bails in exchange, because you were talking about what does he get out of it in exchange? No immediate talks of war crimes, no trying to remove him from office, and he gets to keep Crimea, which ostensibly he gets to keep anyway, but at some level maybe we even recognize it, which nobody wants to do. But if it stems the loss of life, I have no idea what Zelensky would think of that. My guess is he would say no. Talk about just basically the most god-awful situation you can imagine. I don't know. Anything else, Zandring? Does that sound like plausible to you, or what are you thinking? All right, let me interrupt. Chloe, you're here. Chloe, you want to stay for this, so give us 5 minutes. You want to stay for this. I want to show you something. You were saying.
I think that could possibly be a way out because he's not going. Putin, I don't think anybody, I haven't heard anybody who knows anything about Putin has ever said that he will back down. I think that the evidence over the last 4 or 5 days has shown that he's willing to just continually double down. And if they keep pushing him into a corner and this keeps not going quite so well, I think that the tactics used are going to continue to ramp up, and he's just going to start doing as much damage as he possibly can. Like I said, I wasn't particularly concerned about nuclear anything when this all began. I'm not so convinced now, and I would really hate to have him pushed into the corner to the point that he would actually consider a tactical nuclear weapon strike against one of the at least against one of the towns or near one of the towns. So those aren't the big ICBM missiles that wipe out half of a state. These are fairly small, but still a nuclear weapon deployed since the first time that would have happened since World War II. So yeah, we don't want to push him. I don't think that it's wise to push him into that kind of corner, because I don't think, and nor have I seen anybody who thinks that he will give up. So that may be a possible thing. Of course, you're going to have to somehow have Zelensky's cooperation on something like that. So it's either we find a way out for him, or the rest of Europe, and it would need to be Europe, not the United States, decides they're going to intervene, and they themselves are essentially going to invade Ukraine and just stop all of the Russian military. And I don't really see that happening either. So either it devolves into a very nasty guerrilla warfare, or we find a way for Putin to be able to pull out without losing any kind of face and being able to at least claim that he got his goals accomplished. Or I think we're going to see some incredibly brutal and potentially devastating things go on in Ukraine. There isn't a very good out to any of this.
Well,
I would like to bring up what a curious game. The only winning move appears to be not to play.
I got to tell you, I'm still hoping for the regime change with extreme prejudice. We're trying to make that trend. But all right. So what I'd like to do is, I think we should start wrapping up a little bit. But I do want to show you all something. Those of you who were here last night, we did show it, but it's worth doing a second time, I think. And I'm not sure Zandring saw it. KC, if you're still here, hopefully you will enjoy this. Before we do this, and then we're just going to do a wrap up, final thoughts. I think we've covered it. If the nuclear power plant is secured, we will go live. If there's any breaking news, we are assuming already major escalation, especially Mariupol, probably both in Kiev and Kharkiv, regardless. But if there's something serious and we're capable, we will break. Otherwise, we'll see you guys back here in 24 hours and run down what has happened in the last 24 hours. That notwithstanding, so there was a great battle. It was the Battle of Techno House. It happened. I think it was yesterday, and we're gonna carry that for you today. I think this time I'm actually gonna have the music. So we're gonna play the battle. Did you see the Battle of Techno House yesterday, Zandring?
I did not.
Okay, crushing defeat. I feel a lot of so. And is your video on, or you could, I suppose, just watch this on them? But I want to make sure you're getting the video for this. This was no, you're not getting the video. I can fix that real quick. Boo, boo, boo. There you go. You should see the show. So I don't know. You may also just be going on audio here, but the Battle of Techno House. This happened yesterday, straight from Ukraine, and there was significant losses. So, but let's do this here. So I'm going to make sure the audio should be actually fixed and working right, but I'm going to double check it anyway. But wow, that would be amazing if I got this fixed the first time. I think I did. I'm actually getting better at this. Nope, the audio is wrong. So, well, at least I checked. Still an indication I'm getting better at this. I didn't just go with my, So, Battle of Techno House. Let's put that up right there. There we go. And let's all listen in. Battle of Techno House. We believe this soldier was sent to secure the building. And here we go. All right. He's thinking about it. Oh, he's doing, I guess what he should. He's checking, making sure that nobody's behind him. Pretty smart. And now it looks like he's firing at the lock. Yep, multiple shots fired now. The engagement is heating up. We apologize for people who are being traumatized, but it does look like the window lost its life. Okay. Yep, there you go. Good job. Okay, yeah, smash that window there. There you go. There you go. Oh, maybe you can get in. Okay. Okay, he's going to clear the glass there. Okay, you want to be safety first? Safety first. Get the glass out. There you go. There you go. Oh, yeah, you can unlock the phone. No. Okay, put that gun down. I'm sure nobody's behind you to grab the gun. I'm sure you learned that in first days. Like, if you need both hands, put down the gun where anybody can grab it. There you go. Okay. We see there a complete defeat at what was it, at Techno House, and we do have here, and we just this is we wanted to cover here. This was the Battle of Techno House, and what I guess we have is on just so you guys are aware, the belligerents: one Russian soldier versus a store door. The commanders and leaders: Putin for the Russian soldier, and the door frame for the on the door side. Strength: the Putin side had one AK-47. The door had a handle. And casualties and losses for the door: one window sacrificed its life to keep him out. For Russia, presumably, I think some ammo that wasn't, and there it is, ammo and pride. So there, ladies and gentlemen, the Battle of Techno House.
I believe we can say of the Battle of Techno House that the door certainly had a handle on the situation.
Fuck's sake. You've been talking to Randolph, haven't you? I didn't, if I want jokes like that, we'll just let Randolph in the room. Hey, Randolph, we still got to do, I think we're past that show now, unfortunately.
The soldier obviously missed his window of opportunity.
Oh, hold on. Wait a sec. Getting something here. YouTube. We've noticed you've been airing a lot of violence on your channel. That's okay with us, but we just heard the jokes and you have been demonetized. What? Holy fuck. The jokes are that bad. The violence is okay. We get demonetized when you tell a joke.
Well, I'm not really joking. I'm just being a little punny. I'm just so glad I showed up tonight.
Titan, if I forget, and please don't let me forget, could you send me a DM to remind me to review the vetting process for hosts on this show going forward? I see some oversights that we need to address in the future. Just if I happen to forget. You know what? I'm not going to forget. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to forget this one. Yeah. Welcome to In Time. You've just witnessed the murder of humor. It was brutal. It was ugly. It should have come with a warning. I apologize. All right. So
it's very important to frame the situation correctly.
I'd like to point out, I can see the back end, okay? I can see the numbers live. Depression, we might all die, nuclear stuff going off, numbers are going up. Andring comes on, tells a joke. Boom, cliff. It's here. I can screenshot it.
Hey, on my end, it just went up to 30. Come on. These are important issues to be concerned with.
Yeah. Let's not belie that by letting a Xandring on the air. All right. So, as I said, we're going to. This is. Was that the footage? No. We had footage. I'm sorry, we weren't able to. We went live at least 45 minutes earlier, and that's because of the nuclear reactor issue. So we had some footage of ships landing at. I think it was Mariupol. Certainly, I think there was one at Odessa. And it was amazing. It was just footage from the beach, and you could just see these Russian ships coming straight. It's just like, oh, that'll wake you up in the morning. That's better than a cup of coffee to get your attention. And we had some other footage. I try to show. I mean, we obviously show footage from previous days, but we try to show mostly footage from that day. And we don't have a lot of today's footage. Weren't able to upload it before we went live. We just said, "Fuck it, we're going live." I can't believe I just said that. Yes, that's a reference, and I can't believe I didn't even mean to and set that one up. So we'll have that for you tomorrow, and some other things that nobody really wants to see, but we're going to bring it anyway because you're lucky, because you can actually know what's going on. Most people in Russia can't. Again, we're anticipating a martial law being implemented tomorrow. We are aware now that far more information has been getting back to Russian civilians, the Russian people, than we were aware of. At least 7,000 people have been detained and are facing up to, I think it was actually 17 years in prison for so much as saying that this is a war as opposed to a military operation. $1 million bounty on Putin placed on LinkedIn. And one of the oligarchs is dead. At this point, the UK police say that it was natural causes. Not natural causes. Let me rephrase that, because especially if it turns out that there was a noose, which we've heard some reports of, at least it was not suspicious. I do see reasons, and we covered this, why he might be suicidal at this point. He's looking at everything he's ever done in his life gone. And if he is which there's no, I mean, there's a lot of oligarchs. One of them is what I'm calling the third oligarch. It's the one that has flipped and has been feeding some form of intelligence to the U.S., well, to other intelligence agencies. Okay, let me be clear. To the news, including the New York Times. If he's that third oligarch, he's going to get found. But it's also entirely possible that he just killed himself, and we haven't completely confirmed the noose yet. I think Jake said that he saw it in a reputable source, and Jake has never led us astray. So if Jake said it, I think that's probably pretty reliable, but nonetheless, I haven't seen it. So, in any case, I understand the desire to sit there and say, "Oh my God, it was foul play and murder." We don't have any evidence of that, and the UK police say they don't have any evidence of that, and UK is going to the best of my understanding, probably be reasonably accurate on this. So, we're capable of seeing this. I appreciate you guys trusting us to deliver this to you to the best of our ability. We're going to continue to do so. I'd like to thank everyone who makes this show work, which is a number of people in the live chat, everybody on our Discord, which you're welcome to at any time. Sometimes it's a Xandering. Sometimes I really just want to find the mute button. Every time I do that, I end up hitting my own mute button. I don't know how that works. I have to rebuild the panel here because it's way too. By the time I want to mute a Xandering, he's already done the damage. It's done. You can't take it back. Oh dear Lord, we're gonna.
Hey Dor.
What?
Hey Dor. We need you to protect this building. It's really important. Dor simply replies, "I think I can swing that." Come on, Titan inspired me.
I'm sorry. I'm just personally, live chat, our viewers. I didn't change the codes to the room, so he's just got the link and he can just show up whenever he likes. Maybe an issue on our part.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah, that was. And I ain't kidding too. It's the same link. Just come in on the same link anytime. Whoa. We may need to tighten the ship around here a little bit. All right. Anything you wanted to say before we go?
I have the one link. I have the one link to rule them all.
Yeah. Dear Lord. All right. So
let's hope that Putin gets his retirement soon.
Yeah. Deposed with prejudice. With prejudice. Wow. Yep. I like that one. Anything else you wanted to add, serious or not, before we go? I genuinely thank you for coming. I know you've been busy and everybody else has been busy. It's just been a nightmare. So anything else you wanted to add before we take off?
May you live in interesting times.
Oh, thank God. I thought he was looking up door puns or something like that. Jokes this bad.
Oh, I could just read a few of Titans. That the Doors' performance was worthy of a Nobel Prize.
I have unleashed a monster upon the world.
Come on, that was Titan's pun. It was really great.
I'm sure, but it's what I want to know is what is In Time doing that's breeding people that want to between solipsists and door pun experts. I'd like to also know where his source material is because he seems to have an endless supply of jokes. Right, Sister Porpoise, $2. Jokes this bad need a snazzy. Thank you, Porpoise, once again for your support. And hopefully we're not going to have any breaking news. And next time we'll go on air as scheduled, and we'll bring everyone up to date on what's going on. Now you should have some idea of what to expect and what to look forward to, what to expect. And I don't think it's good. I think things are continuing to escalate and get worse, and I think they're going to continue to. Hopefully, the vacuum bomb isn't going to be detonated in any major city area. If it does, this war, which is already bad, is going to unfortunately be escalated to an entirely new level. So we'll see. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Xandering. Thank you to the mods and everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.